So here's a pretty interesting trade from Detroit. They are in rebuilding mode. They have Daniel Norris, who still has 2 more years of team control past this one, and he's really, really struggling, but I think Norris could still be pretty good. I mean, I've seen him pitch pretty well into these kind of saves, and his ratings are still really good. I mean, you see he's got 4.5-star potential, 3.5-star overall right now, and he's not costing us a lot in terms of prospect packages. Alexis Tapia is the guy that's the OSA ratings think of a lot higher than our own scouts. Our own scouts think he is going to kind of top out as a number 3, number 4 starter. So he is the type of guy that I think I'd be willing to move. And it's really him and just a couple throw-ins to get Norris. Now, I was originally looking at trying to package a couple of our infielders, but trading these guys for Norris, I mean, I think that's a pretty good trade for us. Now, there's no way we would get a guy like Fulmer for this package. Maybe if we threw in Ibanez and a top prospect, but I think Fulmer's value in this game is pretty high. They want a guy like DeLeon or a guy like Honeywell. What if we did Ibanez? Would it be maybe a lesser prospect then? Because if we got Fulmer, man, that would really... I mean, if we had Fulmer and Sale at the top of the rotation... Oh, maybe if we threw in Urena. Fulmer... What's his contract like? He makes... he doesn't make a ton. That's not huge money. He has been pretty consistently solid in this game. Definitely better than Norris. I don't know. That's another tough one. I think Norris is the more obvious sell candidate if you're Detroit. But I guess if you're a rebuilding team, you're probably listening on anyone and everyone. So who knows? The other rebuilding team at Arizona. Almost said Atlanta. I pretty much did say Atlanta. Taijuan Walker. He's got 1 more year of team control left after this one. I just kind of doubt we're going to be able to get him for as good of a package as... I mean, what if he even used Tapia? Like, I doubt they're really going to be interested. I don't know if... Maybe that's just specific to the Tigers. They really like this guy. Because, yeah, even like Tapia and Ibanez for Walker gets us laughed out of the room pretty much. Brandon Finnegan represents another potential buy low kind of guy. I don't know what his value is like within the Cincinnati organization, but I just sort of saw his name pop up amongst the teams that are sort of out of it at this point. I'm wondering if Tapia and some throw-ins would be good enough for him. The upside about him versus Norris is that he's got more team control. And yeah, we could pretty much do Tapia and throw-ins, I would think. This guy, we probably wouldn't even have to use Urena. I'm sure we could find someone they would want. No, I guess it would have to be... Yeah, it would have to be someone like Urena. So even that is more value. And I don't really like his ratings as much. And I guess he really doesn't have that much more team control than Norris, so... That doesn't make a whole lot of sense then. Are they really in win now mode? Okay, I was going to say, because they're in last goddamn place. And the Braves. I think the Braves are the last team I'm going to check out. I'm going to look at offers for Andres and Tehran. Tehran, though, probably likely to be overvalued by Atlanta, and he's only got 1 more year of team control. And I just don't like his strikeout numbers. That's the same reason I got rid of Andres, but... Man, this guy's the ace of this Atlanta staff. So, who knows? So even Andres, if we offered up Urena and Tapia, they would want someone else relatively significant. I'm assuming it's going to be similar for Tehran. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do... Oh, I guess not quite as much for Tehran. What if we took off Urena? Even though I think, even if it was this, if it's Tapia and 2 throw-ins for Tehran, I think I'd still go Norris because Norris has better strikeout stuff, which I think will play in the AL more than Tehran. And Tehran's got way less team control, even though he's having a way better year. And he makes more. So I think Norris just makes more sense for the now and for the future. We get him for this year and for the next 2. I guess the real question is whether to do Norris or Fulmer. Whether we'd want to pay the little bit more for Fulmer. Since we'd have to give up Andy Ibanez. And I don't really know if I'm quite willing to do that yet. But he's definitely not been great for us. I think I'd rather just get Norris, to be honest. What do the scouts say about him? A lot to like about him. Solid number 3 on most staffs, number 2 on a few. That's kind of the spot we need. Now, the real question is, let's go back to the Cleveland offer for Jose Ramirez. And they were the team offering him up, right? Or was I going crazy? All right, well, I think I sort of screwed myself with the Jose Ramirez thing because I think he actually just got traded, like in the day that I skipped since I got that offer from Cleveland. Because look at this, he's not coming up in the offers and he's not on the roster. Maybe he got hurt, but I think he just got traded, quite frankly. No, I guess he got hurt, torn quadriceps. So we screwed the pooch on that one. Whoops-a-daisies. That's too bad. I would have liked to get Ramirez, but it's not really worth trading for him. With a torn quadriceps, the good thing is the Norris trade we can do without having to move Perez for another infielder because we're not really giving up any major league ready talent. So we can go through with this one. Now the question is what to do to upgrade the infield. But let's do this first. Let me just look at Fulmer one more time. The scouts not even really think he's that much better than Norris, so I'm not going to pay the extra bit for him. Let's just get Norris. It's going to be Tapia, Bolt, and Tragatone. Like I said, these last two guys are pretty much just throw-ins. And Tapia, we'll see how he does. This is kind of a risky trade. He could come back to bite us. If he turns into this pitcher, we're going to end up losing this trade. If he turns into this pitcher, I think we're going to be fine. Even though you could still argue getting this guy for 6 years might be worth more than getting Norris for 2.5. But with where our team is right now, I think this is the right move to make. So we're going to do it. Daniel Norris, newest Tampa Bay Ray. Let's go to the pitching staff. So we could throw him in there right now for a guy like De Leon who's struggling. But I still think using a Martin Perez to upgrade the infield is the right way to go. Now, we're going to skip to July 31st. See, we do beat Milwaukee in game number 1 of the series. Perez on the bump. So we might let him make this start no matter what we decide to do. Because if we trade him today, we're going to be in a tough spot with who we can throw into this game. This Rizzo offer is just sitting there, and it's really, really tempting. He would really, really bolster our lineup. But then we'd have to put one of these 4 guys on the bench. Tellez, Bowers, Bell, or Gillespie. And I know Gillespie and Tellez haven't had great years, but Gillespie's coming off of a pretty good year. And Tellez starting to hit a little bit better now. You can see the OPS is climbing. It got all the way up to 793 at one point. So, I don't know, man. It's very tough choice. I feel like Rizzo just doesn't really provide a substantial upgrade over what we have, whereas a guy who could play up the middle would. So maybe we just fall back into the Colton Wong trade. But even, I don't really know if he's an upgrade. I mean, the scouts really like him, but he's not hit at all since the start of the series. And he's going to make $23 million over the next 2 years after this one. One of those years is guaranteed. It's a tough sell. There's also Brad Miller we could go back to. But man, Jose Ramirez was the guy, and he got hurt, which really, really stinks. It does really, really stink. Alright, so this deal could actually end up being pretty sweet for us. Rizzo, I already talked about how his contract is a little bit steep for a corner guy that I would want to pay, but one of the big new additions in this year's game is the ability to have other teams retain salary, and not only would Chicago in this proposed trade retain 70% of his salary for the remainder of this year, but also 70% of his salary next year and the year after that if I did decide to pick up his option. So that makes the deal look a whole lot sweeter for us, and we could get a guy like Ben Zobrist, who isn't expiring, and can play the infield for us. Still pretty decent with the bat. Really high OBP the last couple of years. Not great this year, but back in Tampa Bay could turn it around. Now, I'm not gonna argue and say that this trade makes a whole lot of sense for Chicago because they're in a win now mode. Maybe they really need that 5th starter, but it doesn't really look like it. It seems like they have guys who maybe not performing up to their capability, but it seems like they have guys. So I'm not really gonna try and argue this trade from a realism perspective, but it makes a whole lot of sense for us. This would be the other guy I would love to get is Candelario. If we got him to be our third baseman, that would be pretty nice. We might have to see about getting him instead of. So that's the thing, though, is we have to take Zobrist's salary back. That's why they like this trade. What if we? Yeah, see, they're not going to trade Candelario. Well, Well, I like this move. I think we might make this move. Even though, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's a realistic trade, but just makes too much sense for us, and not nearly enough sense for Chicago. So I don't know. Maybe Theo Epstein got fired and they hired a drunk guy, because I think we're gonna go through that. I think this, now that they're gonna pay. I mean, even could we even get them, like, honestly, I would offer up a little bit more if they would pay like 90. I don't know what it would take for them to do that, but oh man, it would take like nothing. It's just, I mean, this kind of gets dumb, because it's like, I mean, I bet it get them to pay, yeah, all of his salary. So now they're gonna pay all of his salary because we threw in Hunter Tackett. Like, doesn't really make sense. I guess this guy has a little bit of upside, you can argue, but and this Chris Kirsch is, I mean, his ratings are the definition of average. So, talk about a 4A player. But Perez, controllable start. He's got one more year, $9 million. You know, obviously he provides upside for them and their staff. All right, I think I'm just gonna do it. I'm probably gonna get flamed in the comments for doing this, but I think I'm just gonna do it. And let's see how much of Zobrist's salary we can get them to retain. 10, just to be greedy. Yeah, so I guess this isn't, maybe we're still paying, and maybe that's just 11. So maybe it's 11 million this year. We still have to pay 3.5 next year. They're just going to pay 11 each year. I'm not sure how it's exactly going to work, but either way, we're getting Rizzo for super cheap, and he is a really good player in this game. I know he can play better than he has these last couple of years, so I think we're going to do it. Makes too much sense not to. Zobrist, a little bit of stability in the infield. And we really didn't, to make those two deals, we really didn't have to peel much off of our Major League roster other than Perez. But we replaced him with Norris, which I think is going to be an upgrade, even though Norris has not played great for Detroit this year. And, of course, I forgot to... All right, I guess we can have Norris make the start. That's fine, because he's fully rested. So let's do active roster and ask manager for staff. All right, perfect. Lineups. So we got to send two guys down now. That is going to be a little bit tough to decide who we want to send down. All right, well, the first obvious candidate has got to be one of these guys, either Dwight Smith or Justin Williams. And I think it's going to be Smith to start. And honestly, if Gillespie became... No, I guess he can't really play. Yeah, no, all three of those guys are first basemen, so we need some sort of backup outfielder. So it's got to be Williams who stays up. It's gonna have to be one of the infielders who goes down. I guess Zobrist can kind of move around, but his defensive ratings aren't really to the point where I want to be testing that too much. So who's it gonna be? Who are we gonna send down? This is a very tough choice. Because Travis has hit well too, but these guys, I don't know. Like, everyone's played well enough to the point where they wouldn't really deserve to get sent down other than Ibanez. But Ibanez is like the highest rated of all these guys. Maybe... All right, we're going to send Ibanez down. Maybe a stint in AAA will help him out. Maybe. He was definitely playing the worst out of everyone, so if you're going by that logic. And all right. So this is what our new lineup looks like. Wow, it's actually playing Zobrist. Or it's playing Travis over Zobrist, which I don't really love, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that might change. And you know, if Travis hits like this, maybe that's the right move. I mean, sometimes those moves can work out just for those reasons, or it just gets a different guy than you intended into the starting lineup. And you know, taking Zobrist was kind of part of the cost to get Rizzo, so you deal with that. But all right, we'll see. We'll see what this does. How's May doing? Do we? Oh, yeah. Catcher is definitely a spot where we could look to upgrade. But it's very hard to find good catching. We have Chiafo, who hasn't really looked good in AAA. Who are like tradable guys on a AAA roster? I mean, I don't really think Fraley gets us much in a trade, despite his good ratings. All right, so I think I'm just gonna do like a very quick run through of the teams that are out of it, looking at catchers, and then if I don't see anything, which I don't really expect to, then I will skip ahead past the trade deadline and end off the episode. All right, so here's one sort of option I found. Sal Perez, who has played pretty poorly the last couple of years for Kansas City, still under contract, pretty sizable contract, but another situation where we could get Kansas City to retain some of the salary for us, make it a lot more affordable, Now, right now, they're looking at, trying to pick up a Justin Williams type or an Allen Hansen. I think giving up Williams for Perez I'd be fine with, especially with Fraley in the folds as a guy we could bring up from AAA. Or I wonder if they would even take Fraley for him. Yes, they would. And Fraley, I think his rating's a little bit worse to me than Williams, even though Fraley's definitely like more the pinch runner, defensive outfielder type, defensive fourth outfielder type, but I don't care about that quite so much. How much could we... Okay, what about if we threw in someone like a Gustavo Cabrera, whatever that guy's name is, or someone even older? Usually I just look at the oldest possible guys, but Cabrera's only half-star potential. Genesis Cabrera is his name. And yeah, I'm fine giving him up. So there we go. And they will retain 100% of his salary, which is good. So there's really no reason for us not to pick up his team option next year. So that gives us, I think, a little bit of a better catching platoon. Him and Wieters versus Luke May and Wieters. Other guy I thought about was James McCann from Detroit, who is rebuilding as well. He's been pretty solid, but I don't really like his ratings. Stephen Vogt, I wouldn't hate, because he is actually not a bad offensive catcher, but defensively not the best. Should we do a guy like Wieters for him, or should we just keep Wieters? I feel like Wieters is probably the safer bet. I think we're just going to keep Wieters. Plus, he's that clubhouse leader type, so I don't really want to get rid of that. Any other teams I have yet to look through? Maybe Washington, or even Philly I didn't really look at. In the first place, they have Severino. They're not going to move him. Philly, they have Evan Gattis. Again, definitely more of an offensive type. I think I would still rather get Perez. All right, so we're just going to go through with the Perez trade. I think that's an easy enough one to make. Pretty much cost us nothing, really, other than Fraley. I don't really know what you would value him at. Just see if there's anyone else. But it's just going to be the same guys, I would suspect. Yep. All right, so it will be Jake Fraley going to Kansas City for Sal Perez along with Genesis Cabrera. They agree to pay the rest of his salary, which works out perfectly for us. We can send Luke May down and add Perez. So, I wouldn't, this deadline, I wouldn't say we really made any huge moves. I guess you can consider the Norris trade a pretty big one. But I think getting incrementally better at a few different spots is going to help us. Wow, Rizzo doesn't even play against lefties. I guess he plays every other game at DH, but that's fine. Whatever. I'm going to trust my manager. We'll see. If we don't make the playoffs, I think that's going to be a pretty big indictment on Kevin Cash, who I believe is still our manager. Or did I fire him already? I don't remember. I really haven't played this in a little while. Oh, it's Brian Butterfield now. Okay, well, it's going to be a big indictment on Butterfield. He's only got 1 year left on his deal, so if we don't make the playoffs, he could be getting the axe. But we will see. So let's skip forward one more day, officially passing the trade deadline, getting into the month of August, our third and final game against Milwaukee, and we do win that. That was only a 2-game series. All right, so we do sweep them, a little 2-game series, 53-46, and that is going to do it. So hope you guys did enjoy. 1 game up. If September looks like it's going to be interesting enough, if we get to the final 15 games of the year, and we're in the thick of it for the division, I think I'll probably record a little bit there. But all right, until then, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you did enjoy. And hopefully, I will see you guys in the playoffs. I'm out. Peace.